I thought it couldn't get worse than part 1, and then I watched part 2, and there's things that could have been good in here, okay? I would like to start this off by saying I am a Zack Snyder fan, but Rebel Moon, I don't know if we can condone this. Hey everyone, so you might notice I'm in a different location, so just to address that quickly before we jump into this review here. I'm in Arizona right now. I am here for Phoenix Fan Fusion, a really awesome con that I was invited to be a guest at for Foreteller Games. So shout outs to Foreteller Games. Check out the other vlogs when they go up. I'm here doing a Dungeons and Dragons live play with them that I'm so excited to play. I have like a mask and everything I'm gonna wear. I have a whole outfit that's all like Victorian garb. It's very exciting. But we are here to talk about Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver, because I watched it on my way here. I finally watched the movie, downloaded it on my Netflix on the plane, and we need to talk about it. Y'all, we need to talk about it. Oh my gosh. So I hadn't heard good things about Part 2 going into it, and I was kind of hoping that I would be pleasantly surprised and that what I was hearing would not be what it was, and that it would actually be better than what I had heard it was gonna be. Because I do like Zack Snyder. You know, the next time when we get part 3, I hope we get the Zack Snyder cut first, honestly. I really want to watch that. I'm gonna do it in my baby doll Sucker Punch cosplay so that anyone that's out there that doesn't believe me will believe me that I do actually like Zack Snyder. And I actually feel like he's a really nice person, like just from all the people that I know that have met him. So Zach, if you're watching this, know that I think you're great, but this movie, man, what happened with this movie, man? So Scargiver is the sequel to the first part, which is Child of Fire. I don't even remember what it's called. Good Lord. That is part of the problem with this movie, okay? That is part of the problem with what the story and what's happening here. So first of all, in part 1, I think I said this in my part 1 review, I kind of critiqued it because it was also just basically like Seven Samurai, if you know that story. But at the same time, I mean, you can do that and do it well. People redo stories all the time, but this is like a bad retelling of it. So here we're picking up where pretty much everyone has been assembled. We have our 7 samurai, except that I think there's 6. They had another one, and that was the Bloodaxe brother, but they lost him. And actually, the sad thing is, I do think the Bloodaxes are super interesting. I also went and I read the Rebel Moon comic. Well, I read issue 1, which is the House of the Bloodaxe or whatever it was called. But basically, there was a comic that was on the Bloodaxes and kind of their backstory, and I actually found that really interesting. Now, the one thing that I felt about that comic that I also feel about this world in general is that it did feel kind of empty. And that is the thing that I just feel like it's so bare bones in terms of world building, where it feels like it wants to have more, but it just doesn't. So I don't know if this is because Snyder has said that he had this great idea for this. I mean, great idea. We'll see. He had this idea for this epic, this space epic. This was basically what he wanted to do kind of with Star Wars, but that didn't end up happening. And so he said, I'm just gonna do it. Netflix said, you can do whatever you want, but the only thing is that we need a non-R-rated cut. So that's the cut we're getting right now. And then later there's supposed to be a Snyder cut, which is going to be R-rated. And they said, you can do whatever you want in that as long as you give us this cut. I mean, I understand you do what you do to get your projects made and get that financing, respect, but I would have never made this cut because I just feel like this cut seems so bad. And I'm just curious if the Snyder cut is going to improve upon this. Snyder has basically said, there's so much more to the world that we're gonna see in his cut of the film. In this version of Scargiver, it is once again very bare bones. There's almost nothing here. A lot of the designs just either look cheap for characters, or a lot of people have talked about how they kind of look like Star Wars ripoffs. I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far with everything. Definitely with the uniforms for the Motherworld officers. It's very very Star Wars, very, you know, World War II Germany vibes, like literally almost a 1-for-1. But I think that just in general, the styling of like what people wear and stuff, or like aliens, I feel like we don't really see like a ton of aliens in it. And then two, even when we do see something that's like off-world or any kind of that vibe, it just feels generic. It doesn't feel interesting. Also, once again, I said this in the part one, the lighting in this movie is all over the place. What happened with the lighting on these sets? I don't know, but I don't like it, and I'm concerned. It's also not just that it feels empty and that it feels like kind of cheaply done. It's just not interesting. That's, I think, the biggest sin here. This movie is just kind of boring for a lot of it. I will say the last third of the movie, the last just over the halfway mark, that's where we get to the final fight. And the first part is just them getting ready for the final fight. So at the end of the first part, we had everybody show back up to the town that they're trying to protect, Velt. And the idea is that they are, you know, Kora was getting these people to come here to help protect the town because the Motherworld's going to come take their grain and they can't get the harvest in time. And so rather than do any of that BS, they're just going to fight them, which is obviously a daunting task because the Motherworld is extremely powerful. However, I'm surprised the Motherworld is so powerful with the way that they just deal with the universe. I don't know how to put it. The way they police the universe, I don't understand how they even have any resources or people left, because they're just like, who cares about our soldiers? We can sacrifice them all. Who cares about getting grain? We don't need it. I'm like, but you do need it. And you do need the soldiers. And like, and the amount of stories of them just burning like towns to the ground, burning cities, burning worlds to the ground, even at one point in this story. We find out the prince's origin, and his origin is that he was a prince on this other world, and his entire world was basically destroyed. Yeah, they destroyed his entire world rather than just work with them. So they're very anti-peace. Peace is not a thing for the Motherworld, and I just don't know how they have anything left to rule with how ruthless and just how brutal they are. You would think at some point, like, I mean, they must have some allies. I don't know. Space is a big place. Maybe there's a lot more I don't know about. But if it's something that I don't know about, then it's really only the story's fault because they didn't put it in. So all I hear is about how everyone's city, everyone's world, everyone's town, everyone's everything has been destroyed by the Motherworld. And even in that final fight that we get at the end of this, the Motherworld is willing to just throw everything away. They're like, our soldiers, yeah, kill them. The grain that the people of the town, they have this plan. They're going to use the grain as kind of a defense, which I actually think is kind of a smart plan if the Motherworld needed the grain that much, which is what they're saying. And then that's established in the film. But then we totally contradict that when they're just like, yeah, just like nuke this entire town. Like, who cares? And I was like, all right, so I guess that wasn't a great plan because I guess they don't really care about that grain. But the whole thing is, I guess, that the cost of the grain is minuscule in terms of getting Arthelais, which Noble is obsessed with. Which also, at the end of part one, Noble and Kora, Arthelais, her real name, they have an epic fight. And I actually really enjoyed that fight, I said, for the part one. And then Noble is like strewn on the rocks. He's been like beat to a pulp. He's dead. Or is he dead? And I was like, they better not bring him back. And they brought him back. They better not bring him back again. They can't bring him back again. It's not possible. Not after what I saw. He can't come back because he's been decapitated. He lost his head. He can't come back because he lost his head. So that is not happening. If that happens in the next part, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do because that would be so crazy. That's too crazy. Let's not do that. Please, please don't do that. Please, please don't do that. I think he's done with, and I think now we might be dealing with the Motherworld and Kora's adopted dad who's ruling everything. The story also went in a direction that I kind of thought it was gonna go, and then it took a twist that I wasn't sure if we were going there, and then it did it, and I kind of liked that part. There's things in this that I do like. There's a few things. I really like the actress that plays Nemesis. I feel like Nemesis is actually such an interesting character, and I just really think she does an amazing job. Even when she's in a scene and she has like the most generic lines, or she doesn't get much to do. She like steals the show for me. Like I just thought she was so good. You know, it's, you know, you're good when the script feels very like basic and you're just crushing it. Like that was her vibe. That was her vibe. Tragically, she goes down swinging. I mean, at least she went down like a badass, so respect. But I was like, why do we have to kill like the one character they found the most interesting? I don't know. There's also a lot of stuff that happens in this where they imply that these characters have been like really well like built and like their relationships with each other have been really well built. Like they're like, we're like a family. And I'm like, are you though? Because I feel like you all just met. And then you did have a fight at the end of the last one, but you kind of all just met. So, huh? In terms of the twist that they take, that one I was anticipating from the last movie, which is kind of good that they went there, I think, because, you know, it was, if they went somewhere else, I would have been like, this feels like it's coming out of nowhere. But that one had to do with the fact that basically Kora's adopted dad, Arthelais's adopted dad, I guess I should say, he used Arthelais as a scapegoat. So what he did was that he saw that the king wanted to basically end expansion, usher in an era of peace, because his daughter had these amazing healing powers, and he saw like a new era where we could all, I guess, live in harmony. Sounds beautiful. But Arthelais's dad, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. It's like Barcelolius or something. He is not here for that because he's a big military guy. And so he's like, this has been my whole life. Like I've given everything for the military. I'm not gonna let it end. So he creates a plot to assassinate, which feels very Julius Caesar, very like, literally people are in togas for that scene. And I know that the Motherworld's kind of supposed to be like a Roman thing, but they went heavy with it. They went too heavy with it, I think. Very on the nose. So he is basically saying like, we need to overthrow, we need to do all this stuff. And then he's using Arthelais as a scapegoat and is basically being like, well, you're the one that killed the princess. So, you know, I'm just going to say you killed the entire royal family. And then we're all going to chase you forever now. And like uses her as a scapegoat immediately. Like she takes out the princess. They're all there. And then he's like, you, what did you do? And then everyone else in the room is like, yeah, what did you do? And I'm like, you all just took out the king and the queen. We're gonna turn on a dime like that? Like I thought maybe there'd be a bit more to it. So I didn't really like how fast it moved either, but I did like that whole idea because that's what I felt they were building with Arthelais, was this idea that yes, she did have to take out the princess. And then, you know, she was basically accused of doing this. But the other weird thing is that some people seem to know like who Arthelais is by her name and what she did. And then other people like find out what her name is and are kind of like, yeah, but like, what did you do? It's like, wouldn't everyone in the galaxy like know that she did that if she's that much of a wanted criminal? Wouldn't everyone know what her face looks like? Anyways, maybe not. Maybe not in this galaxy. We don't have hollow posters. I don't know. So that is the twist that they kind of go with for her origin, which made sense to me. It was a little heavy-handed, but it did make sense. But then the other twist that we get is at the end of the movie, it's implied that, you know, we're going to continue the story because the princess is still alive. She's believed to be still alive. And I did think maybe we would go there because I just felt like the fact that Jimmy, who's also one of my favorite characters, another one of the characters I really like, voiced by Anthony Hopkins, who is a droid who is pledged loyalty to protecting the royal family. So all of the droids that were made that were like that, when the royal family died, they all like basically deactivated, which I also think is fascinating. We don't go into that enough. And Jimmy is not, he's in this, but he's just watching for like so much of it. He's like looking down like, And then at the end, he finally shows up and decides he's going to take a side, fight on the side of the rebels against the Motherworld. And he's like, got his mojo back is basically the idea. And then he's going to join them on this quest because yes, the princess is not gone. And when Arthelais even, you know, blew her away, she kind of turned into light. There was kind of a whole light show that happened. So I thought that lends well to my theory of maybe she's not really gone. But I actually thought she might have been hiding in Velt. Like I thought the girl that Kora saved in part 1 was maybe her like reincarnated or hidden or something. I don't know. I was like, did Kora actually take her out or did she like smuggle her away? But no, she did take her out. but she's not really gone because the princess is powerful, so she's not that easy to destroy. So that's kind of where we're at. It's a whole thing, and I don't know how to feel about it. Mostly, I think I feel disappointed. Again, I'm disappointed. I do think that there are things that feel like they were cut out. Like the fact that everyone acts like they're a family. I feel like there are scenes maybe that aren't in this of people bonding with each other, maybe more world building stuff, and maybe we're gonna get that in the Snyder Cut. So part of me is still hopeful that the Snyder Cut could redeem Rebel Moon a bit for me, but man, I don't know if I can keep going with it. I'm like on the fence because I do want it to be good, but this one was really bad. It was worse. It was worse than the last one. And some of the fight scenes are very bad. Like when Kora is infiltrating the ship at the end in the final battle, there's a whole sequence where I could just see people waiting when they're fighting. And it's in slow motion. So it's really obvious. Like she's walking through and she has this hallway sequence and it could have been cool, except that there's like 3 people and all the people are like, well, you attack and then I'll attack. And I'm like, no one does that. You all just rush her. There's times when people are coming up on her and I'm like, you have a laser weapon. Just shoot her. I don't understand. And then the one thing I will say that was cool is the fight at the end with her and Noble on the ship. Once again, they have the best fight, I think. Her and Noble on the ship. And I will say that the actor that plays Noble also is quite good. And I feel like he's squandered in this. And he does get some really cool action sequences throughout. But at the end, the ship is blowing up and they're sliding off the ship, and then it's you know, Kora and Noble still trying to fight each other while the ship is like falling apart and blowing up. And I thought that was cool. I thought that was cool. It's a cool idea. Oh my gosh. And then when her lover dies at the end, the guy that I hated, that I didn't want her to end up with, and she's all crying, I was like, you guys just said you loved each other in this movie and you just got in a relationship. Please. I know it's dramatic, but I just don't buy it. We haven't seen enough of the bonding. It hasn't been established enough. Not enough moments that felt real. It's so scripted. I mean, it's so... I wanted to, like, when I was fighting, I wasn't scared for my life. I was scared for your life, Kora. And then she's like, oh my God, of course I love you. I'm gonna kiss you because of that. I'm like, please, there needs to be more than this. Also, this guy sucks. This guy is part of the reason why we even started this whole conflict. I'm gonna give it 1 out of 5. It's so bad. It's really bad, guys. I wish it was better. There's things. Maybe we get the Snyder Cut. Maybe. All right, that's it for this one, friends. I'll see you next time. Until then, stay nerdy. Try to stay hopeful. Let's try to stay hopeful. Siri is listening to me.